Number 1. Solitary cats. Cats are solitary animals, independent loners that prefer isolation and don't form social bonds. Pet care guides from the 1960s through 2000 emphasized their non-social nature. Veterinary handouts contrasted cats with pack animals like dogs, describing felines as inherently antisocial. The claim has shaped how millions approach multi-cat households for over 6 decades. But cats form complex social structures, including stable colonies, dominance hierarchies, and cooperative behaviors. Decades of field research has documented sophisticated feline social organization. The characterization seems scientifically justified through evolutionary comparison. Zoologists in the 1940s and 1950s studied the domestic cat's wild ancestor, Felis sylvestris, observing that wildcats are indeed solitary hunters maintaining individual territories. Researchers extrapolated this ancestral behavior to domestic cats without conducting systematic social behavior studies of house cats in multi-cat environments. Early cat behavior literature, including Paul Leyhausen's influential Cat Behavior, the Predatory and Social Behavior of Domestic and Wild Cats, 1956, emphasized territorial aggression and solitary hunting. Veterinary medicine textbooks from 1960 through 1990 described cats as asocial, or minimally social, compared to group-living canids. The American Veterinary Medical Association's 1972 guidelines on feline husbandry stated, "Cats are solitary by nature and often experience stress in multi-cat environments." The ancestral model appeared definitive. If wild cats lived alone, domestic cats must share that fundamental behavioral template. So where did this myth originate, and why did it persist despite contradicting evidence? The solitary classification came from applying wild ancestor behavior to domestic animals without accounting for 10,000 years of evolutionary divergence. Early researchers focused on hunting behavior, which cats do perform individually, and ignored social interactions occurring outside feeding contexts. The emphasis on territorial aggression overshadowed affiliative behaviors, but the simplification served commercial convenience. The pet care industry had built single cat product lines and housing recommendations by 1970. Cat versus dog comparisons became marketing tools. Dogs needed socialization and training services. Cats needed solitude and independence. When feline behaviorists in the 1980s documented colony formation, grooming, and cooperative nursing among free-roaming cats, findings appeared in journals like Applied Animal Behavior Science and Animal Behavior, never reaching mainstream veterinary continuing education or pet care literature. Major pet product retailers continued marketing "Cats are independent" messaging through 2010. As of 2023, veterinary client education materials from 7 major animal hospital chains still describe cats as naturally solitary when discussing multi-cat household conflicts. Here's what the actual research shows. Dr. Sharon Crowell Davis at the University of Georgia documented in 1997 that free-roaming domestic cats form matrilineal colonies with stable social hierarchies, communal kitten rearing, and affiliative behaviors, including grooming and rubbing. Dr. John Bradshaw at the University of Bristol demonstrated in 2012 that domestic cats exhibit flexible social organization, forming stable groups when resources permit, while maintaining individual hunting. Dr. Sarah Ellis at the University of Lincoln confirmed in 2013 that cats in multi-cat households develop complex social relationships, including preferred associates and social hierarchies mediated through affiliative contact rather than pure aggression. Feline behaviorists now recognize domestic cats as facultatively social, capable of both solitary living and complex group structures depending on environmental conditions. This matters because the solitary myth has led millions of cat owners to believe multi-cat households are inherently stressful when proper introduction and resource distribution allow stable social groups. When veterinary guidance operates on wildcat behavioral models rather than domestic cat social research, we're applying 1950s ancestral assumptions to animals whose social behavior diverged millennia ago. And this same pattern of selective observation creating universal generalizations is exactly what happened with myth number 2. But that behavioral overgeneralization ignored breed-specific variation documented for over a century. Number 2. Water hatred. Cats hate water. It's a universal feline trait that defines the species. The stereotype appears in cartoons, idioms, and popular culture across generations. Pet care literature describes water aversion as instinctual cat behavior. The claim has been treated as fundamental feline nature for over a century, but water preference is breed-specific and individual, not universal. Multiple cat breeds demonstrate strong swimming ability and voluntary water interaction. The generalization appeared observationally valid. Early cat fanciers and veterinarians in the late 1800s and early 1900s observed that most common domestic shorthair cats avoided water, showing distress when bathed or exposed to rain. Without systematic breed comparisons or understanding of geographic origin influences on behavior, observers concluded that water aversion was an inherent feline trait. Cat care manuals from the 1920s through 1980s, including Grace Pond's The Complete Cat Encyclopedia, 1972, described bathing as stressful for cats due to natural hydrophobic tendencies. Veterinary textbooks through the 1990s noted that unlike dogs, cats generally resist water contact. The American Cat Fanciers Association's grooming guidelines from 1965 stated, "Cats instinctively avoid water and should be bathed only when medically necessary." The pattern seemed consistent across casual observation. Most cats encountered in Western households avoided water. Therefore, all cats must share this trait. This belief has a specific starting point. Understanding why it lasted matters more. The water aversion generalization originated from observing limited cat populations, primarily European and American domestic shorthairs descended from ancestors in temperate climates. Early cat fanciers had minimal exposure to breeds originating near water or in hot climates where water contact provided thermoregulatory benefits. The behavioral diversity across breeds went undocumented. But media representation cemented the stereotype culturally. Cartoon depictions of waterphobic cats became ubiquitous by 1950, creating cultural shorthand that reinforced the generalization. By 1980, like a cat in water had become a standard idiom for discomfort. When cat fancy organizations in the 1970s and 1980s documented breed-specific behavioral variations, including water affinity in certain breeds, findings circulated only in specialized breed club publications and cat fancy journals, never reaching general veterinary literature or mainstream pet care guides. The Cat Fanciers Association's breed profiles describe Turkish van swimming behavior from the 1970s onward, but these remain specialty knowledge. As of 2024, popular cat care websites including PetMD and WebMD describe cats as generally disliking water without quantifying breed-specific or individual variation. Here's what the actual research shows. Dr. Benjamin Hart at UC Davis School of Veterinary Medicine documented in 2013 that breed-specific behaviors, including water interaction, show significant heritable variation tied to geographic origin. Turkish van cats originating near Lake Van in Turkey demonstrate voluntary swimming behavior and water play. Bengal cats descended from Asian leopard cats that fish in streams frequently seek water interaction. Maine Coon cats show higher rates of water play than most breeds. Dr. Bonnie Beaver at Texas A&M University confirmed in 2003 that water preference varies more by individual temperament and early exposure than by species-wide instinct. Feline behaviorists now recognize water interaction as breed-specific and experience-dependent, not universal feline aversion. This matters because the universal water hatred myth prevents owners of water-positive breeds from providing environmental enrichment through water features and leads to unnecessary stress during necessary bathing by framing it as violating fundamental feline nature rather than acclimating individual animals. When breed-specific behavioral variation is ignored in favor of species-wide generalizations, we're treating cats as behavioral monoliths despite documented diversity, and this same pattern of assuming visible threats while ignoring invisible risks is exactly what happened with myth number 3. But that veterinary care assumption has led to the most measurable health consequences of any feline myth. Number 3. Indoor safety. Indoor cats don't need regular veterinary care. Keeping cats inside eliminates health risks and makes medical visits unnecessary except for emergencies. The assumption appears in countless online pet forums and casual advice. Cat owners frequently cite indoor-only status as justification for skipping annual exams. The belief has influenced veterinary care patterns for millions of cats over decades. But indoor cats develop serious health conditions, including dental disease, obesity, and diabetes at rates comparable to or exceeding outdoor cats. Indoor status prevents trauma and infectious disease, but creates different, equally serious health risks. The assumption seemed logically sound. Veterinarians in the 1950s through 1970s treated outdoor cats primarily for trauma, vehicle injuries, fight wounds, and infectious diseases contracted from other animals. The dramatic nature of these presentations overshadowed chronic conditions developing gradually in both populations. Without longitudinal health tracking comparing indoor versus outdoor populations, practitioners concluded that preventing outdoor exposure prevented most feline health problems. Cat care literature from the 1960s through 1990s emphasized keeping cats indoors to avoid hazards, a term defined almost exclusively as trauma and infection. The Humane Society of the United States' 1980s Indoor Cat Campaign promoted indoor housing for health and safety without distinguishing between acute trauma prevention and chronic disease management. The reasoning appeared straightforward: eliminate the most visible, dramatic health threats through indoor housing, and overall health needs diminish. The roots of this myth go deep. The forces that protected it go deeper. The assumption originated from treating obvious outdoor hazards as the primary category of feline health risk. Veterinary emergency medicine naturally focuses on acute presentations, the broken bones and abscesses that indoor housing does prevent. Chronic conditions developing silently over years received less emphasis in owner education. But financial barriers reinforced the myth. Veterinary care costs money, and many cat owners face budget constraints. By 2000, the average wellness exam cost $50 to $80, with dental cleanings reaching $300 to $500. The indoor safety assumption provided psychological justification for cost avoidance. If indoor cats face minimal risk, skipping preventive care seems financially responsible rather than neglectful. When veterinary studies in the 1990s and 2000s documented high rates of dental disease, obesity, and metabolic disorders in indoor cats, findings appeared in journals like Journal of Feline Medicine and Surgery and at specialty conferences, but never translated into widespread public messaging that challenged the indoor safety assumption. Pet insurance companies continued offering indoor cat discounts through 2015, implicitly suggesting reduced health risk. As of 2024, online cat care forums widely perpetuate advice that healthy indoor cats need veterinary visits only every 3 to 5 years. Here's what the actual research shows. Dr. Deborah Linder at Tufts University documented in 2018 that 60% of US cats are overweight or obese, with indoor cats showing higher obesity rates than indoor-outdoor cats due to reduced activity and constant food access. The American Veterinary Dental College confirmed in 2016 that 70 to 80% of cats over age 3 have dental disease, a condition unrelated to outdoor exposure and requiring professional intervention. Dr. Danielle Gunn-Moore at the University of Edinburgh demonstrated in 2011 that diabetes rates in cats increased 16% from 1970 to 2000, correlated with rising indoor housing and obesity, not outdoor hazards. Veterinarians now recognize that indoor housing prevents trauma and infectious disease, but increases risk for chronic metabolic and dental conditions requiring regular monitoring. Yet a 2022 survey by the American Association of Feline Practitioners found that 40% of indoor cat owners seek veterinary care only when symptoms are visible, often years after treatable conditions begin. This matters because the indoor safety myth has created a veterinary care gap affecting millions of cats whose owners believe indoor status eliminates health risk. Dental disease affects 70 to 80% of adult cats regardless of housing, yet detection requires veterinary examination that owners skip based on perceived low risk from indoor lifestyle. How many other animal health conditions are we ignoring by conflating trauma prevention with comprehensive health maintenance? When preventive care decisions operate on visible outdoor hazard avoidance rather than understanding that indoor environments create different but equally serious health challenges, we're allowing chronic disease to progress undetected in animals we believe we're protecting through housing choices alone.